Hey folks, it's Ray, Rainmaker.com, and today I've got the new Polar Unite GPS watch. Not Ignite, Unite. They are incredibly similar watches. This is the Ignite, this is the Unite. This one costs $149, that one costs $199, but otherwise they're basically the same except for a few minor things, and we'll get into those in just a second. Okay, now this video is definitely not a full in-depth review. I have been using the watch for a little while now, but not really that long. I have used Polar's other watches, which have the identical software in this for quite a while, so I'm pretty darn familiar with how that all works. And this one is essentially just a slimmed down version of those watches. So you got the watch right here, and you got this button on the side there. It's a single button there, and then a touch screen on the top of it. Now, if you do see like some missed touches here where, it doesn't like react quite right away, that's more me and trying to show the camera than it is the watch itself. So just keep that in mind. The display itself is pretty brilliant. You'll notice though that does turn off. That's because it's not an always on display. So you go and press that button or you touch it to turn it back on again. In workout mode, you can keep the display on the entire time if you want to though. So that's pretty handy. Flipping over to the bottom, you'll see that the sensor is different there. Now, if we look at something like the Polar Grit X that came out a couple months ago, you'll notice one big thing. The sensor bump is now gone. This bump here where it went up, that's gone on the Unite. In fact, this is the charging clip right here. You'll notice this part goes straight into your USB port, and then it just simply clips on like that. And you just, again, plug the whole thing right in. I'm not a fan of it. I've always hated chargers like this where you don't have a cable because they're really easy to break off. It's one of those things that sounds trendy, like the Whoop has the same sort of style thing. They're miserable. That's the only thing I actually hate about this entire watch. I'll give you a spoiler. It's a charging clip needs to be put in a garbage disposal and ground up or something. But other than that, I'm totally good with it. So anyways, flipping these back over onto the other side there to get this out of the way. Though I will note right away, in terms of like color and visibility, you can see how different they are. Obviously the Grid X doesn't have a screen that turns off all the time, so it's trying to save battery, but the Unite is a very, very vibrant screen. The Unite screen lasts 4 days compared to 5 days for the Ignite. If you put those two side by side, you'll see they're basically the same. Like I can't quite tell. They're super similar. If they aren't identical, they're very, very similar. It seems like this has maybe a little bit more contrast in the Unite than the Ignite, but otherwise they're virtually the same. Same size as well that you can see there in terms of that. And the Unite, I believe, is 3 grams lighter than the Ignite, so a slight difference there. Okay, and a quick note, if you are finding this useful or interesting, just whack that like button at the bottom there. It really helps out this video and the channel quite a bit. The Unite does not have GPS inside of it, but it does have connected GPS to your phone. So you take your phone with the Polar Flow app and it'll go ahead and grab GPS from your phone, it'll leverage that, and you can go ahead and track your runs and rides, all that kind of fun stuff, and then upload to Strava or wherever else. That actually has a really interesting implication on battery life. As I mentioned earlier, this has 4 days versus the Ignite has 5 days of standby battery life. But when it comes to GPS time, this has 50 some odd hours of GPS time with the optical sensor on the back connected to your phone. So again, using your phone for GPS if your phone could manage to last 50 hours in a single charge, versus the Ignite has 17 hours of GPS on time with the optical sensor on in the back. So a minor benefit there if you were to use this for a really long trek or journey, but honestly, it's kind of the wrong watch for that. One minor note is the strap is slightly different. So on the Unite here, they've got this, it's a laser etched topping. So it looks like it's fabric, but it's actually laser etched, and Polar just responded to my email about that like 10 seconds ago. So I reshot this, but that's a laser etched that looks like fabric. That's not, but it's not as like grippy as this, which is a good thing because I found the Ignite would grip on my arm hair and kind of pull it. This isn't that way. The one downside is they went with an Apple Watch style loop through connector where you just kind of pop it in like this and push this little button in like that. The problem is it's not as smooth as Apple's, and so it takes quite a bit of force to get it through some of these holes to go through. That's really hard to do on your wrist itself. I asked Polar about that, and they also just responded about that, and they said that over time it should get a bit more loose and the pole should go in the hole a little bit easier. So I'll trust them on that. I'm sure they've worked on that over time. Anyways, what I want to do in this video is talk purely about kind of the functions and a bit of a user interface walkthrough. So not a full review. I've done a run now. I've done a bike ride on it. Okay, so with that, let's start using it. So picking it up here, you can see the screen is turned on right there. I can swipe through the different widgets by just swiping left and right there. So this is the sleep widget. I can tap that, for example. You have to have 3 days of sleep to get the advanced sleep metrics, but I can get basic sleep metrics by just tapping open on sleep details. You can see my sleep charge there. there. Slept for 5 hours, 15 minutes last night, continuity, interruptions, sleep cycles, and so on. That's all available immediately versus some of the more advanced features require, again, 3 continuous nights before it'll start showing that. Swiping to the right again, let me get it back all the way. Swiping to the right again, this is FitSpark, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then here is the time. The watch face screen, there's only 2. There's digital and analog, that's it. You can, though, change the color of the accent. So it's red in this case, which I changed. You cannot do that on Ignite. Swiping again. This is my activity for the day. So you can see I've already got my activity goal. I can tap that. I can see my steps thus far, active time. That's all displayed there, as well as on the Polar Flow app. Swipe again, my current heart rate, I can tap it. Max for the day is 150. I just finished up a workout. Minimum is 49 and lowest sleep is 40. And then swiping again, my latest training session. We'll talk about that in the workout sections in just a second, which is now a good time to go into FitSpark. So this is FitSpark right here. And you'll see what it's doing is it's offering me a workout of the day. And there's 3 basic categories. You can see that when I tap on it: strength, cardio, and supportive. Now in my case, I just finished up my cardio workout of the day, where it offered me a 1 hour and 4 minute long kind of mid-base workout, which actually happened to be perfect. That's what I had on my calendar anyways for today. So I did that. And then once it was done with that, it's offering me a new workout. In this case, a supportive workout, which is essentially like core and stretching and stuff like that. So what you see though for each of these, it says core regular, but I can go to more right there and you'll see additional options. So I've got this core regular for 25 minutes, mobility dynamic for 23 minutes, 6 exercise, or mobility static, 5 exercise in 20 minutes. So if I were to go ahead and just do mobility dynamic, I'll tap that right there. I can scroll down and it'll give me some text about what it's going to do. And then you can see the actual workout steps that I have to do there with little animations for each one. And as I go through the workout, it'll walk me through those individual pieces. In the case of my cardio workout that I just did, it does the same kind of thing, but for heart rate zones instead. And then it just kept me in zone during that workout. So it just showed my current heart rate in the zone it was targeted for. And as long as I stayed in that, it kept green. And if not, it nudged me. It made a little vibration on here. No audible alerts on this, just a small vibration to get back in the zone. And the whole goal of FitSpark is to basically be like this daily coach to keep you going. So it's not really designed for like an endurance athlete where you want to have, builds and tapers and recovery periods and all kind of stuff. This thing is just designed to keep you active, and that's sort of it. And then once you've done your active thing for the day, your main workout, then it steps back and says, here's your supportive workout for the day to kind of complement that. So going back one more time here, we have start training. This is where you can choose the different sports you want. Now you can add 20 different sport profiles on the watch itself. And what that'll do is you just configure it via Polar Flow, and that sets those up here. And each one of those, you can customize the data fields or pages within that sport profile, as well as the settings for that sport profile. So you see indoor cycling, the last one I just did there. It does not have any GPS on, which makes sense, of course. But if I swipe to one that has GPS, now it starts off with red there. And then once it finds my phone, it turns to orange. You should see that in just a second. I think it's got my phone in range. Oh, let's just drop it again. It does seem to drop my phone connection a lot. And this is what happens when this happens. This is actually my 3rd attempt at filming this. But it seems to drop it and then it will find it again. So it goes from red to orange. Orange means it's got the phone, but has no GPS. And then it goes to green. Maybe we'll see that in a second here. I'll pull the footage from just a moment ago when it did show that and before it dropped. But it does seem to be a bit of the pattern there. In any case, once you've got that, you go ahead and just tap the OK button or the red button there is starting to start your activity. And you can see your data fields. In this case, it's configured for heart rate up top, distance, speed, and then duration. As you saw, the screen just turned off though. So to prevent that from happening in workout mode, I swipe from the top. I tap the light bulb there so the backlight stays always on. I go ahead and get rid of this there. Get rid of this there. And then now the screen will stay on the entire workout. So super handy. Otherwise, you're trying to wait for it to show. It takes 2 seconds to show, and then you crash into something, and then a tree falls on you. Who knows what happens, but you don't want that to happen. So anyways, swiping to the right again, you've got your metrics for heart rate. Again, these are all customizable using the Polar Flow app, so you can put whatever data metrics you want on there. And then once you're done, you just simply hit this bottom left button there to pause it, and then hold again, a long hold to end the workout. After the workout's done, you can look at the stats on that workout, both immediately as well as later on. So here's my run from last night, 4.32 miles, my average heart rate 155, max 170, cardio load 72, heart rate zones, calories, pace, speed zones. So again, kind of all the basics you'd expect here. It looks really nice. You can see the screen is really sharp here and all these metrics. It looks pretty, so I'm pretty happy with this whole side of things. Okay, with that, I think I've covered all the major stuff. Now keep in mind, there is structured workouts on this as well if you want them, so you can go ahead and download those from the Polar Follow app to the watch. You can set up, certain targets that you want as well beyond what they've got with the FitSpark pieces here. There's also the sleep tracking that I talked about earlier that'll have the basics up front and then more detailed stuff later on. Now for $149, it's not bad. Like, it's a good package. The challenge I think Polar has is that Apple Watch Series 3 keeps on dropping in price. It used to be $199, then $179. Now this week it's down to $169. And with that, you get GPS in the watch. Battery life isn't that much different. A Series 3 is going to get you between 2 and 3 days of battery life, and sleep tracking will come this September. They announced that last week. So that's going to be a really tough thing for Polar to compete against. With that, you've also got music on the watch. Like, you've got all these things for $20 more. I'm not sure how well this is going to be able to handle that competition. Now, within the larger Polar ecosystem and within like the training and exercise side of it, this is definitely a more capable watch. There's no structured workouts that you can do on the Apple Watch without a third-party app, where you have them here within the Polar ecosystem. It uploads a Polar Flow, it syncs to Strava, like all that stuff just happens automatically, versus with Apple, each of those pieces requires something else, requires you download an app. And some of those apps are free, most of them are free, but you still have to have this like whole piecemealed system versus this, everything's just there. So you got to kind of decide what makes the most sense for you. Anyways, hopefully you found this interesting or useful or something like that. If so, go ahead and click that like button at the bottom there, or hit that subscribe button for plenty more sports technology goodness. As I mentioned, definitely just a bit of a first look at things. I'll probably dive into this more in depth down the road, either here or on the site. So check one of those two places out. With that, have a good one.